For Dateline Marion, I'm Tim Petrowich, and we have as our guest Marion head football coach Kerry Martin. It's the start of a new season. It's that time of the year again, Coach. High school football in Southern Illinois, and week one for the Wildcats. We talked last week a little bit after the scrimmage about this team and how each year you try to set up a new identity for each team. One team's a little bit different than the other one, or a lot different maybe than the previous one, or something like that. So what kind of an identity is this team trying to come up with?
Well, we're finding out. I mean, through practice and the summer camps and through the camp session we've had the last few weeks, I mean, it's a matter of taking the skill sets that this particular group of kids has and trying to find out what we can do offensively and defensively and in our special teams areas that best fit their skill sets. And I think, you know, as a coach, you lean on your experience, you try to make some evaluations there. We've been in the same offensive system for 10 years now, and that helps seeing where the puzzle pieces fit. But I still believe that no coach knows for sure until the season starts. You play some ball games. You'll learn more about your team after one game than you probably do in 2 weeks of practice. We're going to learn a lot on Friday about what we can and can't do. And you make assumptions as a coach that we're going to be good at this or that, but you never know until you play a ball game. So we've been surprised before by teams that could do things we didn't think they could, or maybe didn't do things well we anticipated they would. That's part of playing the first games. We don't get preseason games. Sometimes that first ball game is a lot to a coach and to a program, so we need Friday's game to find out what kind of team we are.
Last week you had your canned food scrimmage, and we talked after the game, and the first thing we established was that the defense may be a little ahead of the offense as far as being ready for the season starts. And that would stand to reason considering you've got 7 people coming back on the defensive side of the ball that started at least one game last year.
Yeah, I always anticipate the defense being a little ahead of the offense anyway. But when you have 7 starters back, I think, and I mean 7 guys that can play, 7 guys that truly love to play defense and they like our scheme and they're pretty good at it. So I look at that and think, well, if our offense can grow and continue to improve week by week against those guys, that's going to make us better. We do a lot of scrimmaging against that number 1 defense, and though it's caused some struggles for our offense, I think it's made them better. And of course, we want practice to be tough. We want practice to be more difficult, more adversity than they're going to see in a ball game, and that's hard to create sometimes. But we want to put our kids in really tough situations and make them deal with adversity, make them deal with a defense that's sometimes in a dominant situation, and learn to handle that and step up our game. And I think throughout the summer we've seen our offense make some strides. We still have a way to go, but I think we're pleased that we are making progress each and every practice.
There on the defense, some names that stand out: Dontiel Taylor on the defensive line, Tommy Wilson, Justin Nicholson.
Right.
You've got Jordan Evans back in the defensive backfield, Hunter Lincoln, who is close to a team record for interceptions. Right. So some very important players and some recognizable names on that defense.
Yeah, you know, Connor Huggart, Matt McCullough, also starters last year. Then you've got some individuals like, you know, Trevor Blumenstock that got to play quite a bit last year as a sophomore. So there are other guys that played some last year that I think are ready to step up, and we've got some new faces. Eli Barber at nose guard, Xavier Camrick at outside linebacker, I think are going to be really good players for us. Aaron Porter at corner. So even though we had some spots open, I feel like the guys that have taken those spots can be real strong players for us.
One of the things you've always had, especially it seems like on the defensive side of the ball, is a lot of competition for the defensive positions. Right. And you get to play a lot of players on defense, which towards the end of the game helps you out a lot.
It does, and throughout the season it helps to have some fresh bodies in there and to have some guys that can gain experience for the following season. You know, we've got Braden Ziegler and Alec Childers and Killian White and a number of other guys. A young guy, first year out, Christian Castellanos, I think is going to see some time. Chance Hilliard is playing defensive line now for us, and we expect big things out of Chance in the defensive line area. So some of those guys gained experience last year in ball games, and when we try to play a lot of guys. We try to get a lot of guys experience throughout the season in JV ball and so forth, and try to build the program, not just win the season, but try to build the program through the year. And I feel like it's paid some dividends for us. We've got some guys that didn't play a lot last year, but I think they're ready to step up.
On the offensive side of the ball, of course, your quarterback, Isaac Baker, was able to start a few games last year. You've got some guys who have some experience in the running back position, Matt McCullough, Braden Ziegler. You've talked a lot about Xavier Cambrick, the sophomore who's coming in. You got some returning receivers in Hunter Lincoln and Brandon Osborne. So even though not as many starters on the offensive side, you've still got some kids who have played quite a bit and have some talent.
We do. The offensive side starts a little bit from scratch as far as the key players, losing our quarterback, our leading rusher, and our leading receiver. But we feel like there's a pretty good group of guys that are ready to step up. Isaac's ready to step up at quarterback. Probably going to use 3 running backs in the place where Mitchell Bartle played last year. Camrick, Ziegler, and Matt McCullough. And Alec Childers is vying for some time there as well. Receiver-wise, Hunter and Ozzie are back. But we're also going to be looking at Zach Nave. He's going to play a little bit on the X and the Z position. And DeRay Andrews has been a real pleasant surprise at tight end for us at our Y position. Had a really good 2-week camp so far, really elevated his game. So, offensive line, we returned 2 starters. RJ Manfredo started 2 years ago for us. He's back out, so that's a 3rd starter that's had some experience as a starter on the offensive line. And then we've got some young faces, and we've got some younger guys that are going to step up and play for us. So we feel like we're still behind the defense, but we are improving every week. And hopefully within the next few ball games, we're going to be able to get experience while we're winning instead of getting experience while we're losing.
And you mentioned RJ Manfredo. He brings back a size element that has maybe been missing the last couple of years. You mentioned you're a little bit bigger than you have been in the last couple of years.
He does. He brings a good size element to us, a 6'4", 6'5" guy that's close to 300 pounds. And then we have Damian Buchanan, who will be eligible probably week 2 or 3. And Damian's, in excess of 300 pounds up front. So we are going to have some size that we've lacked a little bit the last couple of years. And not that that's everything, but it's certainly in certain situations in our tight offense, a little size doesn't hurt a bit.
Your schedule is very unique this year. We've talked about that. First 2 weeks on the road to Champaign.
Right.
Week 9, you play a Chicago suburban team in Ridge South up in Springfield. 5 road games, and the closest one is Centralia.
Yeah, hard to believe. Yeah, you even saying that, it sounds strange, but we know we got to get acclimated to playing on the road. We're trying to use it as a positive for the program, and that 5A playoffs, a lot of times if we're blessed enough to make a 10th trip in a row, we're going to have to go on the road probably somewhere, and it's going to be a 2 to 3 hour drive anyway. So that's something that will help prepare us for that. I think we have a good plan for travel. We have a pretty good organization in our staff as far as getting the kids there and taking care of their mental preparation on the way up. And I think sometimes a bus game can be a positive because you've got the kids from 1 o'clock dismissal on. You're able to use that time on the bus to get them ready to talk about football, to let them talk about it and see some film on the way up. So even though it's a 3-hour drive, you'd rather play at home. I think there are some things we can use to our advantage in playing a road game.
And 3 hours to Champaign is not a whole lot different than 2 hours and 15 minutes to Granite City that first week.
It's not that much different. It's not like we've been taking 30-minute trips and all of a sudden for the first time we're going on a 3-hour bus drive. We've had several 2-hour trips to Granite City. Cahokia is a little less than that, so was Althoff. But still, bus rides are not uncommon to us. And so it's a matter of just making sure we don't make an excuse out of it. The ball game on Friday will be won or lost based on the execution of the schemes that we have, and not on bus rides. And it could have some effect, but not the kind of effect that's going to, I don't think, determine the outcome of the ball game. That's going to be determined by our players, our staff, and the job we do during the week.
Champaign Central the first week, a team out of the Big 12 conference that plays, Bloomington, Normal Community, Normal West, a lot of big schools.
Right.
They had the 2 Decatur schools in their conference until this year. So pretty good sized conference, pretty good sized schools. What do you know about Central coming into this game?
Well, only what we know from last year's team. We've had a chance to look at some film from the last year's team late in the year, and they lost some, people. They all had a pretty good senior class last year. But the thing that I noticed, I recently just read an article in the newspaper regarding their program, and their coach seemed really optimistic about the number of players he's got stepping up and looking good this summer. And so I know that he's very optimistic, and that's always a good sign. If a coach this early is optimistic like that, that's probably a pretty good sign they've had a pretty good summer. And he seems to be very upbeat and positive about what they're bringing to the table, and he's talking about more speed than they've had in a while. They're kind of a ground and pound team, but he thinks they're going to be a little more balanced. So he's a good coach. He's a good young coach. He's learned a lot, I think, and he's spent a lot of time studying other coaches, and I think he'll put a very good football team on the field for us to play.
As you get ready to go into this season, first 2 games on the road. In the meantime, a lot of work being done around the school here.
Right.
When people come back this year for the first time, there's going to be a new backdrop on the east end zone with the completion of the physical education building, the nice lighted sign that says Wildcat Stadium by the scoreboard, new bleachers on the visitor side, additional new bleachers on the home side. A lot of things going on to try and help the atmosphere at Marion High School.
It's going to be great. You know, we think our fan base has just been amazing, loud, vocal, supportive the last several years, and we love playing at home. We think the atmosphere here is the best of any place that we go. And then you add to it some of these new elements, some of the physical structures we're seeing, the booster pavilion and the use of the health education building in the east end zone, and the new entryway and the new ticket booths and the new bleachers that are on the west side of the home stadium. I think we're excited about coming home week 3 and seeing that facility completed and having a chance to play in front of our home crowd in what looks like a brand new stadium. But it's a beautiful place. We practice at it every day, and to watch it just kind of be building every day and something new, something different. Every day you walk out to practice, you can see progress, so it's pretty exciting.
It's something that's got to really get the kids excited to want to play as well. You think it's a distraction, but really it's probably more, it adds to the excitement.
I think so. I mean, I've heard the kids talk among themselves about how excited they are to play a home game because of the facility and the home crowd and the excitement and the electricity that they generate anyway. And our fans were generating here before all this was built. But it's nice to see the kids excited about it, the community that's real proud of the facility, and we're proud of it. And we just want to do it justice by the way we play on the field.
I want to ask this question. There's kind of an irony here. And it goes back to the beginning of practice and new rules set up by the IHSA, National Federation of High Schools, as far as getting prepared for the heat and not overdoing it. They extended practice a couple days, extended the time that you went without full pads. And the irony is that at the beginning of practice, it was high temperatures in the upper 70s and lower 80s.
Yeah.
And now you're in full pads ready for the week 1 game, and it's heat warnings and highs in the mid-90s.
Well, I know that they're making every precaution they can for the safety of the players, both concussion and heat and all kinds of things. But sometimes Mother Nature can outfox everybody. I mean, you're right. Back when we were starting, it was cooler than it is now in full pads, and we're still trying to keep the kids hydrated, making sure we give them plenty of breaks and taking all the precautions we've always taken. But sometimes you just can't predict, and we've had upper 90s all week long, and I think everybody in the state has. Everybody in the Midwest is dealing with this heat wave, and it is part of football. It's almost like a rite of passage for a football player to deal with the heat and humidity of August. And I'm hoping in the next week or 2 we get a break for the kids. And once it gets down in the 80s, it'll feel amazing. But right now it's hot, it's humid, and we got to deal with it because I'm sure on Friday night, come kickoff in Champaign, it's going to be very hot and humid.
Well, but it helps with a team like yours that plays a lot of players too, to be able to get kids in and out, get them rested, and get them hydrated too.
It does, and I think that's a big thing, and making sure that our second team guys and our backup guys are ready to go, because this is the kind of ball game where it may come down to which team can keep their players on the field.
Well, it's here Friday night. Yeah. Wildcats at Champaign against the Central Maroons. Coach, look forward to seeing you Friday.
Look forward to seeing you.
Marion head football coach Kerry Martin for Dateline Marion. I'm Tim Petrowich.